Hi, everyone, and welcome to From Admin to VA. My name is Rhonda Scharf, and I am going to be leading this webinar for adminchat for the next hour. And for those of you interested in potentially starting up a side business or even a full-time business, maybe when you retire, maybe when your kids go to school, who knows? This next hour is going to give you a ton of information on what you need to know so that you can start your own business to being a virtual assistant. So my contact information is all over the screen, so don't hesitate to reach out and touch me. And for the, touch me in a good way, on email or on voicemail or telephone. And for those of you that are interested in really joining the mentor program, I talk about that at the very end. But for now, you get a whole hour worth of tons of information that is really going to help you kickstart your business. So I'm going to get rid of my videos, so you don't have to look at me. You can look at the whole, webinar without having to watch me, as we talk about really taking those steps and being your own boss. And we'll talk about the pros and cons. We'll talk about what you need to know. And hopefully you're really excited about this. But when I talk about, from admin to VA, one of the most common questions that I get is, what is a VA? Like, what does a VA do, a virtual assistant? So really, what is a virtual assistant? And for the most part in the world, it's still kind of unclear, but it's basically an administrative job. It's someone who works by a computer, by way of a computer, and is not present on site. So when we talk about a virtual assistant, sometimes it is someone who's running their own business, which is sort of the direction that I take, and they're running their own business and have multitudes of clients, groups of clients that they do things for. Sometimes you can work virtually for a company, be an employee, and just not be on site. Now, statistically, in the year 2025, 50% of the working population will be working virtually. Now, that is in the United States, so I appreciate that not everyone listening is American, but 50% of Americans will be able to work virtually. So regardless of where you are, you're going to be able to understand how your country is all set up. In Canada, it's probably not going to be any different. In the UK, it won't be any different. In most of Europe, it won't be much different. And so you can be an employee where you just work virtually, which, let's be honest, how many times are executives traveling anyway? Why do we need to go to the office? Why can't we work at home, right? So what we're doing is helping get other things done. And as I said, some you'll be employees of companies, maybe groups of companies, maybe just one or two, and some of you will be entrepreneurs. And that's kind of the direction that I'm going for. So the entrepreneur is someone who is self-employed. They have a home office. Here's some of the things you need to know. We'll talk about all the pros and cons. You're not paid for your lunch break. You're not paid for your break. You're not paid for vacation days. You don't get paid for holidays, and you don't have any company benefits. But you have the luxury of working from home. You have the luxury of working from anywhere you are. Now, at On the Right Track, I actually have several VAs. So for those of you that know me, you know that my husband, Warren, typically works right beside me, and he's the finance guy for the business. And so he's right here. Liz is a friend of mine. She handles all my travels. So she's my travel arranger with all my different clients and what I need to do and all of that. And she works virtually, but she does live in the same city. Jackie is the chief of Rhonda, what I call, and she just pretty much runs everything in the background. And she is virtual. She lives in the same country as I do, but she doesn't live in the same city. She's more than a couple of hours away. And so we are working virtually all the time. And for those of you that have dealt with David, who deals with all my webinars, David actually works in India. And David has been my VA for 6 years now, a long, long time. I've never met David, but we certainly feel like we know each other pretty well. So that's really, you're just working virtually. Why do you need to be in the same space all the time? So what is it that a virtual assistant does? And when you look at all the different skills that sort of pop up on the screen, it's pretty much everything. But if you're going to be a virtual assistant, you certainly have to be good at your Microsoft Office. And I'm going to add the G Suite in for a lot of you as well, as we talk about different clients as we move forward. A lot of the clients you may have will be small business. They can't afford a full-time person. They just need a few hours a week or a month. And a lot of organizations trying to keep the overhead down are using the G Suite from Google. So you need to know Microsoft Office. You need to know how to create documents. Maybe you'll be doing things like typing up a book or doing spreadsheets or email or scheduling appointments for sales. You don't need a degree to be a virtual assistant, but you certainly do need experience. You need to know what you're doing because, of course, your client's not going to either be able to teach you or have the time to teach you. So here's some of the things that you could do. You could do blog distribution. So for instance, many of you are already on my newsletter. If not, please check out my website and sign up. But I send out a newsletter weekly, as does Executive Secretary, right? And so when I write a newsletter, it takes a lot of time to write articles, as you can imagine. You want the whole world to see them. So you could hire a VA to do blog distribution. If you're good at writing, you could write blogs for people. You could edit blogs for people. We use VAs to make adjustments on our website. So as we've got new workshops coming up, we put them into the website. We just need somebody to go in the background. My website is WordPress. So that's an easy one to update. If you don't know WordPress, it might be a skill that you want to pick up. Social media, Jackie does an awful lot of my social media, not all of it, but the scheduling things, and Google Analytics to make sure that we're getting the traffic that we need. So any business is going to be keeping track of this stuff. Does this mean you have to know how to do this? No. Is it something you can sell? Yes, it is. Data entry, graphic design. I do hire a woman who does some really nice workbooks and PowerPoint for my corporate stuff. And you could be maybe really good at that. You could manage webinars. Like I said, that's what David does and Warren does as well. Warren does all the books because he's a finance guy. So you need to understand bookkeeping potentially. Payroll is something that's very easy that people will farm out. If you're good with payroll, you could just do people's payroll every couple of weeks. You know, it's not much work, but it's work. Virtual reception online you can do. People like live people on the phone or on email or website chat. You could do conferencing, like you could be an event specialist. So let's say you're almost like an event planner and you could show up at conferences and work at conferences as well. You could do cold calling, surveys, mailing lists, research online. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So what you really should do is sit down and just create a list of what you do. And the reality is you probably easily can do 20 things. And that's before I've gone any further into what you can do. So what you want to do is make sure you get a list of what is it that people would buy? What skills do you have that someone would be interested in purchasing from you? So what do they not necessarily have the time to do? Maybe they don't have the expertise to do. Maybe it's just a better use of their time to have you do it. So for instance, for many years, I did my social media scheduling. I've transferred some of it to Jackie. You'll still see me online everywhere, but some of it Jackie has been doing, not because I can't do it, because I've got too many other things that I need to do. So it makes sense to farm that sort of stuff out. So when you think about all the different skills, hopefully you have quite a lot of them. What's nice about being a virtual assistant is you don't have to do the things you don't like doing. So I personally dislike doing finance. It's not fun for me, don't enjoy it. So fortunately, my husband's an accountant, and it is something he could do for other clients. He doesn't, but he could do it for other clients. So I don't have to do something I don't like. He gets to do something he likes. So if you don't like doing finance, don't advertise that as a skill that you have because you don't want to do it, right? So naturally, there are some benefits. And so think about, why do you want to become a virtual assistant? What is it that is driving you? I've been offering this training for a couple of years now, and I have the entire gamut of why people are being virtual assistants. I have both men and women who are VAs who come through my mentor program. One of them was a stay-at-home mom. As a matter of fact, her son is starting junior kindergarten this week. So she wanted to be with him as much as she possibly could, but especially when he was little, he napped for a couple of hours every day. So she was able to work for a couple of hours. Now that he's going to school half days, she's got a lot more time. When he starts going full school, she still can completely work around his schedule, take him to school, go on the class trips, do everything that needs to be done and still have a job that makes really good money, right? So there's definitely some, why do we want to do this? I have other people who have done this after retirement. And so, you know what, their job ended. They're too young to quit. They don't necessarily want to work in an office 40 hours a week. They want to do something. And so they're a VA. I have one gentleman who's come through the program, and his wife, her health is not well. So it makes sense for him to be able to work from home so that he can take care of her when she needs help. And if there's doctor's appointments that need to come up and stuff, as they do, he's able to do all of that and work it around his virtual assistant. So what is your why? Like, why do you want to do that? And then let's talk about what some of the benefits are, because this helps create that why in a big way. So first of all, you're the boss, kind of. And I'll come back to that when we get the cons as well. So like I said, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, if you want to do something just part-time, if you like to travel the world and want to be able to work from wherever you are, you do get some of those options. Now, I'm going to come back to this because that sort of there grabs things away a little bit, but you are your own boss. If you have challenges working with other people, you don't like working for other people, you want to be an entrepreneur, this is a good way to do that. Another benefit is you do get to set your own hours. So I know that Jackie, who is chief of Rhonda, that's the title I give her. That's not her actual title, but that's the title I give her. She gets up really early in the morning, like crazy early. So she actually goes, I love it. She actually goes through all my email in the morning and cleans it up for me and says, here's what you need to do today. And because she's up early anyway, that works really well for her. So she can get 2 hours in before I even get to the office, which is crazy. She gets up really early and that works for her. And then if she wants to go in the afternoon and do something else, she's put her hours in. So you can set your hours for those of you that are night owls. David, I mentioned he lives in India. He works my hours in India. So he has a lot of different clients because he's a VA for many people. And he gives me 4 hours a day and they are much later in his time zone. And that works for him. So that gives him time during the day to do other things as well. So you get to set your own hours. You are in control of your money. Now, I'm one of these people that is driven, goal-driven, very goal-driven. And so when I set myself a goal and I want to do something with that goal, so for instance, I'm in the process of buying a new car right now. I'm a little bit excited. So I know that if I need X dollars to buy a car, I actually have the ability to up the hours I work to do more, to whatever it happens to be, charge more, whatever it happens to be, because I'm driven by the goal. I'm driven by that debt too. So you can say, you know what, I want to take the month of August off. And if that means you want to take the month of August off, you know you're not getting paid, you can control that. When you have a 9-to-5 job, you can't do that unless you've saved up all your vacation, right? So if you're okay with taking Fridays in the summer off, meaning say 20% discount or rebate or less money, get me that right, you could do that. Or you could work a few more hours every day so that you can afford to take Fridays off because you work longer hours Monday and Thursday. So you're in control of that. As I mentioned, you do have the flexibility to work from anywhere. And that's a pretty nice thing right now. So if you think about all the things that are going on in the world, weather related and traffic related, it's nice that you can pick up and work wherever you want. You don't have to live in the big urban cities. You don't have to commute. You can be on vacation and still work. Not that that's much of vacation, but you can still put in a couple of hours, say in the evenings. If you wanted to, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, you could. There definitely is satisfaction from being able to control your own life. If I work crazy, let's say I do work on vacation, because air quotes, sometimes I do put in a few hours on vacation. I have that choice and I have the satisfaction to say I'm choosing to work on vacation. For those of you that have the corporate job, sometimes you have no choice. It's an expectation that even if you're on vacation, you're still checking your email. That's not fun, is it? I want to do something because I want to. I like doing the tasks that I do. I don't do the things that I don't like anymore. When I started training, corporate training 30 years ago, I was an IT corporate trainer. So for those of you that were even working 30 years ago, never mind alive, I taught you to go from whatever manual system you had, some kind of computer memory writer, AS400 type thing, to a computer. And I stopped loving that after a couple of years. I stopped loving doing the training on IT for a multitude of reasons. So I stopped doing it, which is kind of nice, right? To not do the things you don't want to do. You can control your industry. So for those of you that know me, I'm a motivational speaker, trainer, and consultant, and I specialize in administrative professionals. I'm an efficiency expert. So I specialize in admins. Does that mean I work outside? Don't work outside? No, I do, but I can control it. But I know a lot of VAs that they work specifically, say, for speakers like me. They understand the industry. A lot of VAs work for real estate agents. They work for accountants. They look for insurance salespeople. You know, you can control your industry. So if you have a lot of years experience in banking, you might have a really good niche within banking where you can work for organizations. Or if you're used to working with consultants, then you can control that. If you can't stand real estate agents, don't work in real estate, right? So you do get to control your industry. You do get to avoid commuting time. So my office is in my home. Although it's a beautiful sunny day, I am working inside today. I should be outside, but I could work outside if I wanted to. And my commute time is about 30 seconds, and that's if I'm going slowly from my bedroom to my office. So certainly that allows me to roll out of bed and actually arrive to work in my pajamas if I choose to. And honestly, I usually do. I usually am in the office no later by 8 in the morning when I'm in my office. When I'm delivering out to clients, I'm up much earlier. And I'm typically in the office by 8 o'clock at the latest. And I come in my pajamas and I sit around for a couple of hours and then I'm like, yeah, I should have a shower. But I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock, get all ready, get all pretty, and then commute to work to start for 8. I can get up at 5 to 8, honestly. So there is that commuting time. And I can easily work till 5 o'clock or later if I choose to, because we don't eat dinner at 5 o'clock, so I could work later if I want to. I actually don't. I keep a pretty decent balance on my hours in the office for the most part. I do work 8 to 5:30 is kind of the hours that I work here. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer, but that gives me a lot of hours to get work done, as you can imagine. You could save on your car. Potentially, for those of you living in really busy cities, you don't even need a car. You can Uber, you can taxi, you can ride share. You can certainly save on clothing expenses, although those yoga pants can get expensive, but there's overhead saved there as well. What's really nice is there's no more office politics. Everybody hates office politics, right? And so there's no more of those to deal with, unless you're working with your husband like I am. You have to argue with him or her. And of course, there's the freedom and independence. The past weekend was just a holiday weekend in Canada and in much of the world. And we actually left the office early Friday morning. We were going to a cottage for the weekend. And it gave us the freedom and independence to be able to do that, which is pretty nice, right? So there's a lot of benefits here. I didn't even talk about how much money you can make, and we will certainly get to that conversation as well. There's a lot of benefits, but of course, nothing is perfect. If it was perfect, everybody would do it, right? So there are cons to being a VA as well. And so we're going to talk about, I give you 10 pros, 10 cons. We'll talk about money. We'll talk about marketing. We'll talk about all of that, pitfalls to avoid. But there's certainly some cons. And the first one is your clients. Okay, you don't have the quote unquote boss anymore. You don't have office politics, but you do have unreasonable expectations by clients. So let's use the real estate example, just because everywhere in the world, real estate works similarly. And let's say you work 10 hours a week for the local real estate agent. And in your head, 10 hours a week is 2 hours a day. So you think, okay, I can give, Rick, the real estate agent, 2 hours every day, and that still gives me time for all my other clients. But let's say you're thinking Monday to Friday, Rick, the real estate agent, but as you know, real estate agents work every day. And let's assume Rick, the real estate agent, has an open house on Sunday, and it was popular, and he's got multiple offers. Rick, the real estate agent, might want your 8 hours on Monday. He might say, you know what, I contract you for 10. I need 8 of them today. I need to follow up with all these people. I need to write a couple of offers. I need to get some marketing out, whatever. And he may not realize that when he said 10 hours a week, you were thinking 2 hours a day. He's thinking not only 10 hours a week, but 10 hours as he needs them. And even if he understood 2 hours a day, he's probably thinking those hours are 8 to 10. As everybody is, right? So you'll have clients who have unreasonable expectations. Let's say Rick, the real estate agent, has the open house on Saturday, and 300 people come. He's probably going to send you all their contact information over the weekend saying, I want an email sent out first thing Monday morning to all 300 of these people. Well, when are you going to do that? Right? And so they don't work on your clock, and you can expect that they will have unreasonable expectations. You know what? I'm sure that I do when I'm dealing with my team. And I'm sure they sometimes go, really, Ron, do you expect that to be done first thing? Yeah, actually I do. And everybody doesn't care. This is going to sound awful. They don't care about your other clients. I don't want to think that I sound like that, but they don't care about your other clients. They care about you. And I bought 2 hours of your time. I want it right now. And they don't want to be told, well, I've got my son's graduation from school today. I'm going today. Well, no, I need this done today. And so you will have to have some difficult conversations. You will have to set some boundaries. We talk about more of that in the mentoring program, but you will have unreasonable clients. It's going to happen. Number 2 is there's no such thing as a typical day. So some days you may have 40 hours worth of work that day, and other days you don't. So I know that my day today is actually not bad when I'm looking at what I have to do in the day. And think about your corporate job. It may be not bad, but then you get other days where I've got to do everything that day. And in the corporate world, we say things like, well, it can wait till tomorrow. Well, in the entrepreneurial day, it might not be able to wait till tomorrow. Because if you wait till tomorrow, they'll go find someone else to do it. So there are some things that are packed, jam-packed. And there are other things that are not. A Friday before a holiday weekend for most people would be very quiet. There might not be any work. And the Monday after a holiday weekend might be insanely busy or might be quiet. Depends on the industry that you're in, right? So there's no such thing as 8 hours every day. The third con is that clients won't give you all the information that you need. And you just know, we know that from the corporate world. So let's go back to Rick, the real estate agent. Rick says, all these people stop my open house. Here, I'll fax you the forms or I'll scan you the forms. I want you to put them all in the database. I want you to follow up, give them all a call to see what their feedback was in the home, follow up with an email as well. And this is, and Rick says, and I'm running with offers all day, so you can't get in touch with me, but I need you to touch base with all these people by the end of the day, because if they want to put in an offer today, I need to know by 5 o'clock. Well, Rick sends you all that information, but what Rick doesn't do is give you the phone number, or doesn't give you the email, or doesn't give you their last name. Like, Rick doesn't give you all the information, and now you can't get in touch with them. So it's very frustrating. You have to be extremely independent to be a VA. Now, some clients are going to give you all the information, but some aren't. And you just know that from life, right? Here, I need you to call so-and-so. Can I have a phone number? Oh, right. But maybe you can't get in touch with them to get that phone number. So sometimes that will happen. Or I need you to create this brochure. I want to market such and such a book that I'm writing. Here's all the information. Well, can I have a scanned copy of the book? Oh, right. And you just spend time doing all of that, asking for all that information. And they may not respond very quickly, right? The reason they need you in the first place is they are too busy. Work-life balance is an issue, as you can imagine. When Warren first started coming to work with me, he's my husband, right? He comes from the corporate world. And so he loved having the flexibility for work-life balance. But his work-life balance and my work-life balance were different. Like I said, I typically work from 8 to 5:30-ish. That's kind of my life. Well, Warren would Warren's very physically fit, likes to exercise. It's really good for his blood pressure. So he'll like to go for a run and maybe be gone for an hour. He'll like to take his bike and go for a 2-hour ride. He'll like to go down to the gym and work out, but he likes to do that in the middle of the day. And that drives me nuts. So I'll say, Warren, it's the middle of the day. We've got emails coming in from clients. The phone might ring if you're not here. So he loved that for balance. I hated that as his boss, right? And so you typically don't take a lunch break either. So you have to figure out some of your boundaries. So like I said, I've been doing this for 26 years, so my boundaries are pretty good. Warren, when I'm traveling and he's here, he will go work out in the middle of the afternoon, even though it drives me crazy. But he might be in the office at 7 o'clock at night, which my brain says, no, you need some time away from the office, right? So you have to figure out what works for you. Like, where do you go to the bank? When do you go to the bank? When do you go for groceries? Like, when do you do you do that in the middle of the day? And then that means you're going to work in the evening. Is that okay with you? If you have 8 hours of work, you have to figure out that balance. If you don't, fine, you might be able to go shopping in the middle of the day, but then you're not working on your business. You're doing your family life stuff, right? So it depends. Do you want to work 8 hours a day? Do you want to work 2? Do you want to work 4? What is balance for you? Your startup costs are real. For those of you, I'm thinking about this from the entrepreneurial place. You need to buy your own computer. You need to buy your own software. You need to buy your own cloud storage. Your clients may have some of that stuff for you, but they're not going to set you up with that. And so you think about your overhead. You're going to buy a phone, a mobile phone. You're going to buy a laptop. You're going to buy software. You're going to need some place in your office to work. The initial costs right in are significant. Just put the cost of laptop, mobile phone, internet plan, potentially a phone plan, potentially all your software. That's a lot of money right away, right? And think about, what if you get a virus and it takes you down? You take your computer in to get fixed and your local computer store says, we'll get this back to you in 48 hours. What do you do for the next 48 hours? And is that okay with your clients, right? So your overhead initially is substantial. You don't get sick time or vacation time. So if I wasn't feeling well today and I needed to spend time in bed, I'd take care of myself, but that meant I wasn't earning money. And that's tough, especially if you need the money that you're earning. It is not just a nice side gig that you have. I'm the only income in our family, so I don't get a lot of sick time. You know, if I have a deadline that I need to deliver to, I deliver to it. Vacation is tough as well. Fortunately, I do have a team behind me so that I can take a little bit of vacation. But the reality is I still bring my laptop with me on vacation. And you're not getting paid while you're on vacation. You don't have 2 weeks holidays, right? So can you afford to not only pay for that vacation, can you afford to not be earning money while you're on vacation as well? So, you know, you have to consider all of that as well. You're constantly marketing. And let's say your market is going to be your city where you live, and you go in the middle of the day and you go to the grocery store because you can, and all of a sudden you see Rick, the real estate agent. You may feel that, hey, Rick, how are you? Just to remind you, I'm Rhonda from VA Pros or whatever whatever it happens to be. Are you okay with constantly marketing? Well, that means that if you're going to go to the grocery store, you're probably going to look somewhat decent just in case you meet somebody who might be a client. And people get tired of constantly marketing. When you're self-employed, you're always selling. And I don't want you to go into salesy mode, but you have to constantly keep your eyes open for things. Like if you went to the grocery store, you might stop and look at the bulletin board and just read what's on there, because maybe somebody's looking for somebody just like you. So you always have to have that top of mind, right? And that is frustrating for people. It's not like you get that perfect work-life balance. I don't know that we get it anywhere, but you certainly don't get it when you're an entrepreneur the same way as you do when you're an employee. You need to have really good dedication and discipline. So let's assume today is a slowish day. For me, it is. And I get an email from somebody that says, hey, what are you doing today? You want to meet for lunch? I'm like, yes, I do. But it's easy to just do that all the time. And while I'm out, I'll get groceries and I'll go to the bank and I'll go to the gym. And I'm going to go for a nice walk along the beach because winter's coming. And so you need that constant dedication and discipline. And this is actually why most people don't succeed as an entrepreneur. It's the dedication and discipline. So in the mentoring program, I certainly give you that, and you get a lot of stuff for it, but you get me for life. And I kind of keep you on track. I touch base every once in a while going, how's it going? What are you doing today? And not to give you crap or anything like that, but just to keep you on track if you want it. If you don't want it, I don't do it. But it does require that constant dedication. I as much as I don't start till 8 o'clock, some mornings I want to stay in bed longer. And I have to say, it's a work day, get up, and get into the office. Number 9, and it is lonely. Now, I've been doing this for so long that I've passed this, but when Warren first started working for me, especially because I travel around the world delivering workshops and keynotes, he's in the home alone a lot, and our kids are adults. So there's no one here in the evening. We don't have pets because we travel too much. And it's lonely. And at first he really struggled with that. And I know that he's created a wonderful Facebook life. So if you're not friends with Warren on Facebook, join Warren, friend Warren Munn, because he will be your friend. And he's really good socially. He really is. And I tease him about spending too much time on Facebook. But the reality is it's a lonely job. And you just run out of things to talk to yourself about or think about. So for those of you that are highly extroverted, this is a challenge at first. I am highly extroverted, but I've managed to get a good balance with that. So I plan things in the evening. I do travel and see clients, so I do get to be with people a lot. But for those of you that are used to people around you, it can be very lonely, and that is a con. And you're always learning. And there's YouTube, but every time you're watching a YouTube video, you're not getting paid because nobody's paying you to watch a YouTube video, right? You're not doing your client's work. So your learning takes away from earning. But you have to keep your skills always on top, right? So if you think about, when you look at the pros and cons, is this something that you think, nope, the cons totally outweigh the pros, I'm not going to do this. Stop listening now. If you're thinking, no, I still think this is exactly the life I want. Most people do. Most people like the concept of being an entrepreneur. I'll zip it back to the pro side as we talk about money. So just using the almighty American dollar on there, but you can work wherever you want. And I'm going to be talking about it in different rates as well. So payscale.com is an American company that tells you how much people make. And so PayScale says that the average VA in the United States earns $15.75 US. That's less than $20 an hour. Well, that is situational dependent. That depends on skills and geography. And I can tell you, I don't know a single VA that earns less than $20 an hour. they all earn substantially more than that because probably their skills are a little bit more marketable. So if you're thinking about the generic stuff, it's going to be a commodity and people are going to be able to find that on places like Upwork and Fiverr for very low cost. But if you've got skills that are more marketable, they range somewhere between $10, I will say, and $75. And US is what I'm talking about. But I know several VAs who earn 110 plus for what they do as well. So certainly you can create a lot of more, bad English, but wealth. You can do a lot more if you are skilled, if you've got special skills. So the reality is you can actually make a lot of money being a VA. And so we'll talk a little bit about more how to do billing. But like I said, I know VAs that are charging 110 US dollars an hour. They have a very specialized skill. So they're, for those ones, they're working with my database and they're doing complicated things where they're doing automated sequences so that if you respond to an email, you automatically get emails from me, every week or whatever. So they organize those type of things, but $110 an hour. And so that's a lot of money. If you're doing the math, you're going, whoa, I'm rich. Well, it doesn't quite work that way because if you charge by the hour, you're limited because not every hour you work is billable. And what's interesting is the better you are, the less you get paid. So for instance, what might take one person 60 minutes to do, you can do in 20. So your 8 hours, you're really efficient. You're still getting paid 8 hours a day. And if people don't know how efficient you are, so instead of saying, I charge you X number of dollars per hour, and they say, oh, that's really high. And they're not understanding that what takes you 20 minutes takes someone else 60. So they're paying more that way, right? But it's going to hurt you in the end because you're too quick, if that makes sense. You can also charge by project. And this is actually better for those of you that are really, really quick. And so when you're charging by the project, what you're doing is saying, okay, I can do X for you. It'll cost you Y dollars or Y pounds or Y euros or whatever, right? It'll cost you X. And so that is rewarding you for being really fast. So instead of saying it's a 20-minute job, I charge, $50 an hour, 20 minutes, no, you say this is what it's going to cost you for me to do that. That way you're rewarded. And so what you want to do is if you're doing it that way, and usually that comes when you get a little bit more experienced as a VA, you want to be careful about something called scope creep. So here's what happened to one of the VAs that was in my mentoring program. She was working with a guy who had written hundreds of travel blogs and he wanted them put out to the world one a week. And so basically, here's the blog, it's written. I want you to post it to my website and I want you to put it out to all these different sites. And she said, okay. And they came up with a price. Now there was 100 of them. So you can imagine it was a pretty decent contract she was pretty excited about. Well, then after the first couple, it wasn't working that well. And so he's like, okay, well, I need you to do some social media, add on to some social media because I'm not getting the traction. Well, now all of a sudden she's being asked to do something that wasn't in the original bid. So does she go back to him and say, well, that's going to cost you more, which is the right answer. But part of her said, no, he wants it, it's not that much. And you end up getting scope creep. And all of a sudden, then it's not just this, that, and the other thing. And this little job you end up doing was huge. So he did actually want her to do something significantly more. So she had to go back to him and said, well, if you want this, this is this much more work for me to do. I need to do this. And he threatened to pull the entire contract from her, said, no, I'm not paying more. I'm already paying you a ridiculous amount to do this as it is. Just add that to it. And she's like, no, it's more. And so I don't remember off the top how they settled, like where they settled in the middle or whatever. But he's like, oh no, you do that as included what you already quoted me at. This isn't, this is just part of it. She's like, no, but they understood things differently, right? So you have to be careful about that. Another way that you can do money as well is you can charge by a retainer. So a retainer are billed in advance. So I have this woman, Tracy, who does all of my website stuff. So whenever we have website issues, whenever we have host issues, I work with Tracy. And Tracy bills me 10 hours at a time. and she lives clear on the other side of Canada. And she also gets up crazy early, which is nice. And so she bills me 10 hours at a time. And so she said, you're buying X number of hours. It's, 10 hours, it's X number of dollars. Here's the invoice. And I pay that up front, and she keeps track of her using that time. And then when those 10 hours are up, she bills me in advance again. So that works really well. Now, what I've worked with other people, what they do is they charge you a certain number per month. Let's say it's 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month, let's say. And you bill them the 40 hours a month. Now, if they don't use it, they lose it. So the problem with that is you can imagine you're going to get clients going, how much time have I got left? What do I need to do? And they get all antsy because they want to use every minute of their 40 hours. But once you get long-term clients, that works well. They just know that they're going to get 40 hours, and you're going to let them know when it expires, or if you're going to have it expire at the end of the month, or do like Tracy. She just lets it run for however long. And what you have to figure out is how close to the minute do you bill? Do you bill in 5-minute increments, 10-minute, 15, 30, 40? So if I just have Tracy do one little update and it literally takes her 3 minutes to do, how much time does she bill me for? Because if she bills me 3 minutes, which is of course the answer I would want, I'm not thinking about the fact that she read the email, she closed the email, she opened up my stuff, found my passwords, like all of that takes time as well, right? So you have to figure out what your incremental billing phase is. And so obviously you need some kind of time tracker software, something that's going to keep track of your time. So there's also the right just to use you as a reference. So are they using you as an expert? So like a lawyer would do, you would have a retainer for a lawyer. I just call you up and paying the retainer whether you use it or not. So you have to figure out what your model is. And it's not just as simple as that. Some clients are going to want cost pricings. Some people are going to want to know they only do 10 hours a week. Some people are just going to want to bill by the hour, but they want you to update every day how many hours they spent. So when you figure out how you're going to set your rates, and like I said, I use the American dollars, but wherever you are in the world, go online and kind of look at what other VAs are doing. And obviously, I can help you with some of that as well. If you need some advice, just give me a shout and I can help you with that. But when you're setting your rates, are you excellent at what you do? You do have to charge what you're worth, and don't use your corporate mindset saying, okay, I made $50,000 a year. That works out to, $26 an hour, I don't know what it is, whatever it happens to be. Don't do that, because you're not going to be working all those 8 hours as well. So people are using you to save them time and money. So there is a premium to that. So does your skill set save people time, or does it make them more money? Those are important things as well. Are you a generalist or a specialist? A book that I can recommend to you to read is not one I've written, but it's called The Wealthy Freelancer. So check out The Wealthy Freelancer and figure out where you are. So at the beginning, I will say that most of the VAs that come through my program, they don't charge their full worth because they're trying to get experience. They're trying to figure out how this works for them. They're trying to get some client base. Once they get a little more comfortable and they've got a little bit of money coming in and they think, you know what, this is worth more than this. And they have different rates as well. Like the way that you might handle, let's say, data entry might be at X dollars an hour, but the way that you handle graphic design is worth a lot more, and it's at Y dollars an hour. So you have to figure out, what your rates are worth in the marketplace, what other people are charging, what your expertise is worth, and what makes sense. So we could talk about money for a long time, and we do in some of the work in the follow-up program that I do. But you also have to consider your overhead. So now, potentially where you are, you're paying your own healthcare, or you're not paying your car, and you're not paying your shoes. That's my clothes budget shoes. But now you're paying for a much bigger internet package, and you're paying for your software, and you're doing this, that, and the other thing. So you have to factor in all those costs as well. So a lot of pros for sure. There are some pitfalls that we need to avoid as well. So when you look at the pitfalls, some of the elements of working as an entrepreneur that we want to make sure we don't do. And the first one is working too hard or not enough. Now, I am 100% guilty of the too hard side. I love what I do. I find it very enjoying. It's going to sound really weird, but I find it very enjoying to come into my office and just sit and putz around, whether that's writing articles, whether it's writing books or workshops or doing proposals or reaching out and touching clients. I really love what I do. So for me, that's why I have some really tight boundaries for me, because it's too easy for me to want to work too much. I know that when I travel and I'm on the road, I put in ridiculous hours, and that balance is hard. And I've paid the price for that in the past, and I don't want to do that. Now, another pitfall that a lot of people struggle with is not working hard enough. There's too many things to grab your attention. You know, you'll be sitting at home and go, oh, what a beautiful day. I should go for a walk. The winter is coming. Or you say, you know what, I've got a load of laundry that needs to get done. Or somebody pops over because you're at home. I sometimes, it's going to sound bad, I don't answer the home phone when I'm at home. My dad, he doesn't anymore, but he used to call me in the middle of the day just to chat, because he's retired, of course. And he would say, so what are you doing? I'm like, Dad, I'm working. Oh, what are you working on? Dad, I'm so he just doesn't understand it. So you might get people who drop by. Let's say you are one of these moms who has children at home and you're working around your children's schedule, your mom or a dad that working around your children's schedule. You might have other stay-at-home parents drop in to say, hey, thought we'd, go to the park. Want to come? Like, no, I got to work. So it's easy to get distracted. There's so many other things that are sometimes more fun to do, especially at the beginning when you're not really getting a lot of work. You have to work on getting work. It's easy to get frustrated, and it's easy to get pulled away to other things that are more rewarding. So you do have to watch that pitfall. You have to watch for a conflict of interest with your current employer. So I am going to talk about some of the dangers to avoid when you're making the transition. We'll talk about that before we're done. But let's assume you are still working full-time and you're working at going down to 3 days a week in your current job so that you can run your own business 2 days a week. Lots of people do the slow integration. The problem is that your employer may perceive that you're working on your own business from your job, or if you're working from home, there's trust issues. So you have to watch that conflict of interest. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but it is a pitfall to avoid for those of you that are making a slower transition from full-time work to part-time VA work, in that people will question what you're working on when you're working on it. You have to look at tax and insurance. So for those of you that need healthcare in your country, you have to potentially look at that, or out of country insurance if you want to travel and go to other places and you don't have that with your employer. You have to look at your tax. You do have to pay tax. It doesn't come off automatically. So you have to remember to save the money to pay your tax. And that is making an assumption on how much money you're going to make, right? And then put that money aside. Hard to do when you're just starting up and not potentially earning a full-time salary yet. It's like, I need all this money right now. I don't have time for the tax man. I don't have the ability to pay the tax man. But the tax man exists in every country, and you're going to certainly need to pay attention to the taxes that you owe and what you should be charging. Should you be charging VAT? Should you be charging HST? Should you be charging state tax? Do you know the taxes that you should be charging? You want to look at your digital footprint. Now, I know that this is something that's becoming more and more popular in conversation, but if I Google your name, what am I going to find? And the fact that you've had your Facebook account for 12 years now, or whatever it happens to be, and in the past, it never occurred to you were going to be self-employed, I can find that stuff about you. So if you're too political online, and I don't care where in the world you are with politics, and I'm looking at potentially hiring you, and I'm going to Google you, that's just a standard. I think most people would. You would do the same for an employer. You would Google them as well. And you've been really political, or you have really strong views on whatever, is that going to hurt you professionally? So you will notice if you follow me online, if you follow the Rhonda Scharf, the personal stuff on Facebook, you get a lot of wine stuff. If you follow the business stuff, you get all admin stuff. You will not find political statements for politics anywhere in the world. You will not find religious overtones, just because it doesn't matter how I believe. It's my choice to not put things out there that are potentially going to hurt me professionally. So maybe I have a belief different than your belief. Somebody might challenge you. They might not want to work with you. There's all kinds of reasons why to watch your digital footprint. We know why people don't get jobs digitally, right? You want to make sure you're smart with yours as well. One of the pitfalls that I see far too many entrepreneurs doing is being too casual or too cheap with their business. So for instance, I get all kinds of spam, as I'm sure you do too. And I just got one this morning, and this guy sent me this email about one of my websites. So I have a website, dealingwithdifficultpeople.org, and it's filled with all kinds of content. It doesn't sell very much, but it's filled with all kinds of content on dealing with difficult people. Of course, the ultimate, bring me into your workplace and I'll work with you on that. I got an email from a guy today that it comes up, Mark Smith, whatever his name was, and it said, I went through your website and I found all kinds of errors and you're putting out a bad image, and it was pretty much giving me, crap, for sake of a better word, on my website. But his email came from 123769@gmail.com. So I don't even know the guy's name at gmail.com. He didn't have a nice email at all. He didn't have a logo. He didn't have contact information. It was like this Mark Smith guy was a friend of mine. He's saying, hey, Rhonda, just thought I'd send you this. Like the same way, a friend would send you an email. Like it was so casual. It was so cheap looking. And of course I deleted it, because if you don't even have a website, how can I consider you to be professional? So in the first session of this mentoring program, we do talk about having a website, and you don't actually have to have it to buy the URL. So let's assume you're youreva.com. You want your email to be rhonda@youreva.com. I'm rhonda@ontherightrack.com. There may be a Gmail address in behind that, but that's not the email that I'm using. If the phone rings at home, you don't want your kids to answer it and go, hello, Mom, phone's for you. Like, no. So you want to make sure that you're not too casual. You want to get your own website address with your name in front of it. You want to have your proper telephone. Like if you can get distinctive ring in your house so that the kids don't answer the phone, or it can be on your mobile phone so that you're the only one that answers it. We have a phone tree sort of system. So if you call our phone number, you'll get an automated recording, and I can have that pushed anywhere. So I can have my office calls pushed to my office phone. I can have them pushed to my cell phone. I can have them put anywhere, but I always know that it's a business call, so I answer it properly. So I never go, hello, while I'm on the golf course, because that's not the image that I want to put on there. You need a nice printer. You need a scanner. Depending on your industry, you don't really need a fax so much anymore. You need to have business cards, even if you just get, 100 of them printed at Vistaprint for $10, but don't have, your name on a label stuck to a piece of paper. That's no good. You need your separate working space so that you can set up your office. So you don't want to be too casual, too cheap, which goes to one of the cons of it's expensive to start up, right? If you look too casual or too cheap, you're not going to get hired, or you're going to get hired by somebody who's also too casual and too cheap. And is that the client that you want to have? Definitely a pitfall to avoid is computer disasters. I am 100% on Dropbox. I don't get paid by Dropbox. I'm not giving them a free promo. I don't store any of my files to my laptop, because what if something happens to my laptop? I've been around computers for far too long. And so I know that I can go to any computer and still have access to all my email, to all my documents, and I don't need it to be my computer, because computer disasters happen. You could drop your computer and break it. You could leave it on a plane. That might have happened before. Computer disasters happen. You have to think about contracts when you're working with fellow entrepreneurs. What kind of contract do you have? So go back to that example where one of the women who was in my VA program had done a job with all those blogs. And then he said, no, that was part of the original contract. Well, you come back to the original contract to say, this is what it stated. So, you have to make sure that you have some contracts, which of course are in the mentoring program, and the boundaries, the expectations, the money, the billing, the everything very clearly displayed, or you will get caught. And one of the things that I say to every single person that comes through the VA program, you will get burned by someone on a contract. It's a given. Let's hope it's not a big one. And so we talk about all of that, because you just don't want to go on blind faith. Even if the people that are hiring you are friends, or friends of the family, or friends of your significant others, you still have to have contracts, because you'll get burned. You want to create a vision plan. What is it that you want your business to look like? How big do you want to grow? Where do you want to do this, that, or the other thing? Do you really want it to be just 10 hours a week? And that's fine. What is your vision to getting it to 10 hours a week? What is your vision to getting it to full time? What is your vision 5 years from now? Is this a business that you want to take somewhere? So what is that vision? And another pitfall, which is fascinating to me, yet so very true, is assuming that you'll get referrals. So let's assume you are really good and you are quick and you are professional and it's done right the first time, which I'd like to think most of you assume that you are, and you're really good and you're thinking, if I work for Rick, the real estate agent, he's going to tell Bob, the builder, that I'm fantastic and I'm going to get referrals if I do a really good job for Rick. The problem is Rick's not going to tell anybody that you're doing a really good job because Rick doesn't want you working for any of his competition, or he doesn't want you working for anybody else. He wants the time that you have now. So it's really interesting. A lot of people think, well, okay, I've got this person who wants me, I'll use a real estate agent example. I've got this real estate agent who wants me to do this job for him, but he doesn't know that I'm worth $40 an hour. So he wants to test me at $20 an hour. Now, if I do a really good job, I know that he'll agree I'm worth $40 an hour and he'll tell other people that I'm really good too. No, he won't. First of all, he'll probably never agree that you're worth $40 an hour just because that's why people want to try it cheap. And he's not like, if you are really worth $40 an hour and he's paying you $40 an hour, he's not going to tell other people because he doesn't want you to get so busy you don't have time for him. So there's a lot of dangers to being a solopreneur, which sounds really awful, right? But we talk about these. You have to go into these with your eyes open. A lot of people start up a business and then they start it up. They have fun. It's like moving into a house, but then they don't want to clean it. They don't want to keep it maintained. They don't want to keep getting clients. They don't want to keep getting, going into the office with nothing to do again today and keep trying to drum up business. So there are a lot of pitfalls. Now, the drum up business, fortunately, I've got a few places I can give you right now where to get business. And there's lots that you can think of. So when you go to sites like upwork.com, Upwork is a gig economy site. A bunch of these are. And there's people where they bid on your business. Now, you're not likely to get your $40 an hour here. These are the type of sites that bring the averages way down. Now, you might get really good work if you have some really specific specialties. So go around and look for something that you would do. Look for people who are posting jobs. Look for people who are offering it. See what their ranges are. Same with sites like Time, etc., Indeed.com, and Freelancer.com. Those are all free sites that you can post jobs to get things done, and you can also look to get things done there as well. Networking is a really good place to get business. A lot of people. Go into your LinkedIn account and look at all the people that you know and connect with all the people that you've worked with over the years and start to build your network before you start building your business. So networking, you can go to different business community meetings in your city. There's all kinds of them out there, and you can network like with Chamber of Commerce. You can network with other solopreneurs. Certainly that's a good way to get known and get your name out there and learn those contacts that you need to have. Networking is really where business is done. So I know that there's been quite a few of the admins go through my program, and I have other people who know that I teach this program, and they say, I'm looking for a VA. And I'm like, okay, I've got one for you. Because I know you from going through the program, I not only can recommend you, I know what you do. And I know a lot more about your personality because we spend quite a bit of time together. So networking is a big piece of that. Straight out selling. Maybe you want to go to a conference and get a booth at the conference where you're networking and you're selling to people. So you can do sales. Like that guy that sent me that trash email this morning about my website. That's a sales marketing thing. I didn't like his style of it, but that's a marketing thing that you could do. You can go to your past employers. Maybe they're not looking to hire you, but they might know someone. Everybody knows someone, but we're all just a couple of degrees away, right? And everybody knows people that are self-employed. Everybody knows somebody that needs help. Oh my gosh, have I got someone for you? They don't need someone full-time, but man, they need somebody a couple hours a day at least. That's the kind of person you're looking for. So your past employers know what it's like to work with you. They know how good you are, and they're a really good source of business. Friends, you don't necessarily want to work for business with friends, although that's not a hard no, but your friends all know people as well, and they can connect you. And job boards, there's lots of them out there, people looking for business. So there's lots of things that you can do to find the business. But networking is your biggest one. So start setting up your network before you start setting up your business. So make sure you're well connected, make sure you're looking professional, look at your digital footprint, all of those things as well. Now, when it comes to making the transition from the job that you have now, and I'm going to call that your full-time corporate job, to your VA job, whether that's full-time or past-time, there's a few things that you need to be aware of. And the first one is to be upfront. Now, when I say be upfront, I mean be upfront to your boss. Maybe not your fellow coworkers yet. At the beginning, if this is part of your transition plan, let them know. Say, you know what, I'm able to retire in 18 months. Here's something that I want to be doing. I want to start my own VA business. I don't want to work 40 hours a week. I don't want to keep coming into work. So I'm not going to leave this job until I'm able to retire. But when I'm retiring, here's what I want to do. So you know what? Keep your eyes open for things that potentially I could do, or people that I need to meet, or any of that. You might want to let your boss know. Now, 18 months seems a little bit long, but certainly if it was a couple of weeks, I would let them know. The reason you don't want to potentially let your coworkers know is, as much as they may be really, really good friends, I think there's a lot of negativity that happens with friends. There's a lot of jealousy. And when people do something that others want to do, they pretty much poo-poo it. They naysay it. So let's assume you're getting to the point in your life, your kids are adults, they're out of the house, or you got grandkids, whatever, and you are looking at retirement. And you say, you know what, the country that I live in is just too darn cold in the winter, so I want to go somewhere warm. Maybe you want to spend your winters in Spain, like Lucy does, right? So what ends up happening is you tell your friends, you know, I'm going to buy a house in Spain. And people are like, oh, don't do that. You'll lose your nationality if you do that. Or what about your health care? Or, you know what, I wouldn't move to, and they come up with all the reasons why you shouldn't move to Spain. And is it that you shouldn't move to Spain? No, it might be a fantastic thing for you to do. But people look at the negative and they try to scare you away. And part of their brain goes, I wish I could do that. I wish I could move to Spain. And they're not deliberately shooting you down. But if you were to say to people, I'm starting a business, a VA business, just starting it up a little slight, you're definitely going to get some people that are 100% supporting of you. And you're going to get some people that are like, really? So now when I see you really busy at your desk, you're doing your own stuff, aren't you? And people will be naturally negative. And I hate that. And I hope that you've got some really good support in your workplace right now, but not everybody does. So I'm going to just caution you about letting people know about what you're doing. I don't let my dad know. My dad and his wife are love them to death. Please don't get me wrong. They're just negative. And they can always come up with a reason why I shouldn't do things. And you just don't need that kind of negativity in your life. I was talking to my dad and his wife last night, and she was saying, so where are you off to next? And I'm telling her what my schedule is like. It's just like, you're just never home. How do you have much of a marriage if you're never home with Warren? And first of all, I answered it my own way, but it's negativity that I don't want to hear. Like, you know what, let me deal with that. That's not for you to worry about, you know, that kind of stuff. And so you'll get a lot of negativity for people. So be careful. They'll give you the statistics. Do you know that X number of self-employed businesses go bankrupt? You don't want to hear that stuff. You want to hear the positive stuff, right? What you don't want to do is fish in your own pond. So fishing in your own pond is looking for clients where you work right now. And that's part of the reason I told you to network and go with your LinkedIn contacts. So let's assume you did work for a real estate company and you want to specialize in real estate. If you're looking to get your own agents, it's going to be perceived as a conflict of interest. So your boss is, what do you mean you're paying them to do that at home as opposed to doing that in the office? Wait a second. And so when you get clients from your current employer, it will be frowned upon, no question. You've got to really look at the ethics of what you're doing as you make the transition. So if you are even just doing, let's assume you're just, you know, taking your lunch break and you're looking for business on your lunch break. Are you looking for business on the company computer, on the company internet, on the company time? You know, ethically, that might be a challenge. If you have a client that calls you on your mobile phone and you're at your day job, ethically, you're not working your day job, right? So you have to look at that. You have to be prepared to work hard when you're making the transition. So most people, when they're doing this, what they're doing is they're using their vacation time to work in their business. So let's assume they take every Friday off for 6 months and they work from home on their business on Fridays. And so you're eating away your vacation time, right? So you're working hard. You're running 2 jobs. You're not typically getting vacation. You want to be careful about the optics from working from home, especially if people know you have a business. And so if you're working from home on your corporate job, people are like, oh, I bet you're working on your own stuff, right? So make sure that it, you know, on your social media, you're not posting social media stuff about your own business. If it's a day, if you're working from your corporate job from home, you know, the mistakes where people call in sick and then they post the pictures of them golfing. Kind of dumb, right? So you don't want to be working from home and have all the stuff online be about your private business, your personal business as well. You want to be careful about mistrust. It's a big deal. So you want to be ethical. You want to be open with your employer. You want to be smart. Don't ride the line. I believe in karma, and you do the wrong things while you're in your job, and that's going to come back and bite you. And you're going to be giving up your vacation, right? So think about all the things that could go wrong as you're making the transition, and make sure that they don't go wrong. But I don't want you to be negative Nelly either. I want you to focus on what could go right. You know, stop being afraid of what could go wrong. Be aware of it, but think about everything that could be so right. I mean, for those people that have made this step, it's so nice to watch them. I've got I've got half a dozen VAs who are 100% full in their calendar. They're running as much as they possibly want. And some of them are hiring others sort of on contract work because they've got so much VA work going their way. And so there's so many benefits. There's so many plus sides. It works so well for the lifestyle that most people want, that it's very exciting. It is a skill that you've spent your entire career creating, your assistant skill. And so maybe maximize everything that you've learned over the years and everything that you will continue to learn and create your own business. Now, for those of you that are interested in your own business, the mentoring program that I have is here. It's an 8-week program. You get a pre-recorded webinar that you have a week to listen to, typically deliver them on Wednesday mornings. You get a 30-minute private coaching call each week, and I work within your time zones. So if you're in Australia, I'll get up at 3 in the morning and we'll have our coaching call. If it happens to coincide with the time where we have several people going through the program, we actually do group coaching, which is far superior actually. And so you learn from each other as well. So whether it's group coaching or private coaching, you get that each week. There is a private Facebook group that you're in for life. By the way, you get these webinars for life as well. And so they don't expire. So you can listen to them 5 years from now to go back to the basics. Private Facebook group where we share leads, we share information, we share discussion. You get my fast track program, Fast Track to Success, 6 months worth, and it sells for $197 US alone for that. And it's one video every week for 6 months. You pay in installments or full, and it's only $397 US. And so we can figure that all out if you're interested. Here's some of the things that we cover off in this 8-week program. So an awful lot. But whether you take my program, you do your own thing, you take someone else's program, doesn't matter. What I want you to do is get excited about your possibilities. Think about all the things that you could do to really keep yourself on the right track. If you don't already get my newsletter, there's how you get it. If you want to listen to a free 4-part webinar, go to fasttrack.success.org and start that. But what I want you to do is share the admin world with the admin world. Let anybody you know who wants to see this webinar see it so that they can get excited about their future. Connect with me online. Have a fantastic day. Get very excited about what's going on, and we'll talk to you soon.